Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to tonight's webinar, Making College Affordable. We have a spectacular speaker for you today, but while we have everybody coming in, I wanted to make you aware of that today is National Peach Day. And I have this gorgeous peach tree in my backyard, and I have been stuffing myself with the delectable fruit. So if you see a peach today, eat it because it's National Peach Day. And also it is National Just Because Day. On August 27th, it offers us an opportunity to do stuff just because. So feel free to celebrate this day any way you choose. And if anybody fusses at you, you tell them I said you could. So I want to let you know that our next webinar coming up is Patelco's Guide to Members Benefits. And you cannot benefit from a benefit unless you know about it. And guess what? Our amazing Andrew Farrell is going to take you on a ride. He will enlighten you, inform you, and entertain you. I tell you, I'll be the first one there, not only for our benefits, but see our amazing Andrew. So I just wanted to have a little housekeeping. Please use the chat to welcome each other and to inform everybody what you're thinking. You can use the Q&A for questions, and we're going to do our very, very best to answer as many questions as possible. But if we can't, you can also send them to webinars at patelco.org, and we will absolutely try to answer every single one of your questions to the best of our ability. We won't be able to answer them all on this 1 hour webinar, but we're always going to be giving you the best that we got. So, and now I have the immense pleasure of welcoming LauRae D. Upchurch. She is one of the best financial literacy teachers out there. She's smart. She's done everything. She's experienced, and not only is she going to tell you about making college affordable, she's also very educated and has gone through this process herself. She's been working with balance, but I tell you, every time I get an opportunity to welcome you, LauRae, it is my deepest pleasure. So everybody, give her a hi in the chat and welcome LauRae to our presentation.
Well, thank you so much for that warm greeting, Veronica. And now I feel like I have so much to live up to. And I'm going to do my best to do that. Hello and welcome everyone to Making College Affordable. I'm so glad that you all could be here. This is, I feel like, a subject for any time of the year. I feel like it's for any time of anyone's life who is either going to be attending college at some point or who has some children who are, making their way through the ranks and college is their next stop. So for whatever you're here for, the reason you decided to come, just know that this information is going to be valuable for not only yourself, but maybe some friends or family and some people who might be embarking on this same journey. I want to give you a quick background on me and a little bit of my journey. So I am a certified financial education instructor, award-winning program manager. I am also a previous junior college adjunct instructor. So I know a little bit about the college and education aspect. I was a student myself at some time, had a bunch of student loans. Recently, I just shared this with Veronica, recently got those loans forgiven. And now today, I feel like sometimes it's my duty to inform and help all those that I can learn about the process, start making decisions to make college affordable? And there's so many avenues, and we're going to cover them today. But again, glad you're here so that you can take a step back and learn a little bit about what you can be doing now, because you're going to hear me say this more than on one occasion, that it is never too early to get started and to prepare. Okay. So with that being said, we're all in this virtual room together. I can't see you or hear you, but I can learn about you by asking our first poll question, which is, how would you describe your attendance today? So Veronica, if you could go ahead and launch that first poll. And the question is, how would you describe your attendance today? Would you describe yourself as a high school senior? Maybe you're a parent of a high school senior. You're going to be entering college, or a high school senior who will be entering college, your child is. You're a current college student, so you've already gone through your freshman, maybe sophomore years. A parent of a current college student. Maybe you have a college student who will not be entering in the next school year, but maybe a little bit more down the line. So you want to do a little bit of ahead of time work. And if something else, if none of these describe you, then you can go ahead and go over to the chat and tell us, how do you describe your attendance today? And Veronica, if you could, I do have my chat open, but I'm multitasking. So Veronica, if you can tell me what we're kind of seeing.
Sure, LauRae. It looks like when I launched them, it launched all of them. So predominantly we have, I'm a current college student at 29, and I'm the parent of a high school student at 29.
Nice.
We have, I'm a parent of a student entering college in the next 2 to 10 days. We have 17%, and something else is going to be in the chat. That's 21%. And then they went on. I guess when I launched it, it launched all of them all at once.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Have you already estimated the total cost of attendance? 67% have a rough idea. Yet 9% have the full picture, and 32% do not know. And of course, what is your biggest worry about paying for college? Taking on too much debt. Oh my gosh. I know that happened with one of my 3 children. I'm not qualifying for enough aid, and balancing college costs with retirement came in second. And then covering living expenses beyond tuition came in last. And yes.
Good. Very good. And that's okay, because I'm learning all about you guys all at the beginning, and that's helpful for me because I want to, and I like to try to speak specifically to who is in the room. So you'll notice that as I go through and we're talking, I'm going to be speaking directly to you parents, because a lot of times there's parents who wants to learn about this for their planning for their children. But I also speak to you college student, especially if we have any grad students here who are independent now and looking to finance their own graduate or post-undergraduate studies. So cool. Thank you so much. And thank you, Veronica, for reading off some of those results.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to talk about who was responsible for financing a college education. Take a second and think about this. Whose responsibility is it? Do you believe that the parent should foot the bill? If you believe that the parent should foot the bill, go over to the chat, find an emoji, and give me a thumbs up. Your thought is parents should be the people who pay for college. Oh, I already see an answer here. Good, thanks. The government should, I agree. What about the child, the student? Do you think the student should be the ones footing the bill?
Well, we have some graduate students here that are thinking about footing the bill for themselves.
Yes.
A 33-year-old is going to start her first time college student. The government everybody thinks the taxpayers should be paying for our children's education. Danielle says part parent, part student.
So both, absolutely. So thank you so much for your participation. Now, depending on your beliefs, you might say that parents are solely responsible for paying for their children's education. If it's a clear expectation, hey, these are my kids, I expect them to further their education, I expect them to put themselves in a position so that they can have a higher earning potential, thus that's going to require some more education, and I need to be able to provide the tools so that they can do that, then yes, you might believe parents are responsible. Now, some of you might believe that the child is that sole responsibility should be on the child. They're 18 or they're almost 18. It's time for them to be an adult, do what's necessary to pay for their school. And it's possible that some of you believe that that's a combination of both. The child pays by doing things like making the good grades, thus become eligible for scholarships, and even signing for the loans for themselves. They sign for the loans, they're going to repay those loans on their own. While the parents take care of other important responsibilities for attending college. So it could be maybe parents are responsible for room and board perhaps, or for fees and books. And so yeah, maybe a combination. Regardless of how you feel, just know that there is going to be a bill, and we have to figure out how and who is going to do it. Now, as we navigate ways to lower the cost of college, let's start first at the decision point, because a college education and college education institutions, including tuition, can vary. The expense can be really high or it can be really low. I actually read some interesting stats about the state of California this morning. I don't like to quote them without vetting them completely, but an article that I read from The Atlantic just gave some average tuition cost. I'll ask this, based on this article, which California university do you think has the highest tuition? Type it into the chat if you can think. And I just read an article this morning, very new information for me. I see a couple people are saying Stanford. I see a UCLA, a USC. I'll have to tell you, according to this article, it's USC. Is USC
Wow.
has the high? Yes, absolutely. So I say all that to say you do have options and there are ways to lower the cost of college. And the one way is one of many, but one way is by attending a public school. So specifically an in-state public school, those are generally more affordable than private schools and schools that are out of state, because, you know, of course, you go to a school out of state, you're going to have to pay some out of state tuition. Living off campus opposed to on campus may be a cost saving measure. I know I'm speaking to you Californians and you're like, maybe not here in this area because the cost of living is relatively high, but the cost of rent and groceries may be less than room and board in some areas, especially if you have a roommate or two or three and you're sharing the fee for rent each month. And I would say additionally, maybe you are looking at renting a room instead of renting an entire apartment space, because that might be a cost saving measure. What about doing your first 2 years of study at a community college and then transferring to a 4-year? Anybody agree with that? That might be a good cost saving measure. Actually, you can save a huge amount of money. Now, Virginia, which is where I live, has a guaranteed program for graduates of its community colleges. If you graduate from the community college system in Virginia, then you get automatic or what's considered guarantee admissions into state schools in Virginia. And that's not very uncommon, actually. A lot of states have it. California has a similar program that might be worth looking into. It's called the TAG program, or Transfer Admission Guarantee. Thumbs up if you've heard of it or if you're familiar. Okay. So your state also participates in a program for students who are interested in attending an HBCU. An HBCU is a historically Black college or university. I actually attended an HBCU. So another program that maybe you want to look into, again, for making college a little bit more affordable. Taking and acing advanced placement or AP courses in high school, that might open up college course credit. So it could mean graduating a semester or two earlier. Now, another item that's not listed here is CLEP. You guys familiar with CLEP? So CLEP means that the student can earn credit without spending the time and money to actually take the class. So you can register for a CLEP exam in 34 different subjects. If you score high enough, then you can what's called like CLEP College Board Exam. Thank you. College Board Exam Program, so that you can you don't have to take the course. You can take the test and receive the credits. Nearly 3,000 colleges and universities will accept your exam scores for credit. So that might be another idea. When I used to teach at a community college, there was a story that we were told when we worked in advising about students who would test out of classes and using the CLEP program. And one woman was in school, I don't remember what she was studying, but there was some type of history class that she was to take. And it was based on like the civil rights era. And she was a part of the era and she lived through it. And so she was able to kind of test out of the course as I don't want to call it a subject matter expert, but as someone who not only lived through it, I think she was actually active in during civil rights era. And so things like that, right? I remember a year ago, we were talking about this subject and it was around the Olympic time frame. And I gave an example about Katie Ledecky, who you guys know, or maybe you don't, you should get to know her if you don't. But she is one of the most award-winning, definitely gold medal winning swimmers of our time. And let's say she was in college and she had a swimming course that was a part of her curriculum. You think this, and she's been swimming since she was like really young, winning medals, I think starting at like age 15. You think they would make Katie Ledecky do a swim course, a PE course for swimming as a requirement to teach her how to swim? No. So she would likely be able to clip out of that course if it was required. Okay. So I did ask a little bit. I wanted to know about if you've already estimated the total cost in attendance. And kind of going back to that, it looks like a lot of you have 58% have a rough idea of about what it will cost. 33% haven't done it quite yet. And then 13% yes, say you know what the full picture looks like. I think this is important because now we're going to talk about the different saving vehicles. And I like to look at your knowledge and knowing, because that's a little bit of your roadmap. If you're going to start to save, look at loans and all these different vehicles we're getting ready to discuss, you need to know what the number is, where you have to be, how much you need to save. So let's talk about these vehicles that you can use to save. And first of all, again, it is never too early to start saving and maximize the power of compounding interest. I would also say it's not too late if you have a student who will be entering into college soon and you're thinking, well, I only have the next year or two. How much can I really save in this time frame? I would say regardless of that, it doesn't matter. Still start saving, and we'll talk about some of the vehicles you can start putting your money in. Now, there are many ways to save money for a child's higher education with varying tax advantages. You don't have to be restricted to just one, and we're going to cover so many of them. If you're not sure where to put your money, it is a good idea for you to consult with a financial advisor, a financial planner. I believe you sometimes need enough information just to be able to ask the right questions. So, for example, I hear quite often, and honestly, I give this guidance, and Veronica, maybe you do as well. You say, for more information, if you need specific assistance, reach out to a financial advisor who can assist you. And that's really not enough sometimes, because you say, okay, I go get the advisor, and then what? I don't know. I don't understand this. What do I say? So a lot of what I'm going to go over today, if you believe you need an advisor or a planner to help get you there, then I would say pull out your mobile devices, get on the notes section of those devices, pull out a sheet of paper, and as you have questions, jot those down. So you have, at least you're equipped with the questions that you'd like to ask that advisor when it comes to saving and preparing, making college more affordable. And I like to start with custodial accounts. So when you save or invest in an account created for the benefit of a minor, you can do it in what's called a custodial account. These accounts allow the transfer of money and property to a minor without the expense of establishing a trust. Now, a trust could be established, but you don't have to. A trust is a fiduciary arrangement that allows a third party or trustee to hold assets on behalf of a beneficiary or beneficiaries. Okay. With this custodial account, you can open it at most financial institutions, including Patelco. There's no income limitations or contribution ceilings, and withdrawals are not restricted to higher education use. So you can use these funds for anything. Now, at the age of 18, 21, or 25, the money automatically shifts from you, primarily your name, to the child, who then can completely control or take over the assets. The reason I say 18, 21, or 25 is because the age at which the account transfer is dependent on the state. I'm not sure what the state of California says. I can tell you that the state of Virginia, the Great Commonwealth of Virginia, says that at age 18, and Ohio, because I have a custodial account for my niece, and she'll be 18 next year, or next month rather, and she's going to get all of the assets to her into her name. Now, since the child technically owns the asset, it will significantly impact the financial aid awarded. We're going to talk about financial aid shortly. But the funds are going to be taken into consideration when determining the student aid index. And that's just a calculation that determines how much financial support is needed. So I think it's just food for thought. Just know that if you have custodial accounts, those accounts transfer into the child or the student's name, then there is an effect that can happen in the financial aid arena, because now typically children don't have assets. There's nothing in their name. Once assets become in their name, then that is going to affect the financial aid award. Now let's talk education savings accounts, or ESAs. So the Coverdell Education Savings Account is another vehicle. In it, the earnings grow tax-free, and the contributions made toward it are not tax deductible, but those funds can be withdrawn tax-free as long as they are used for qualified education costs. What are qualified education costs? I'm so glad you asked. This includes tuition, fees, books, equipment, and other related expenses as it relates to higher education. There are many investment options available. You can choose between different stocks, bonds, mutual funds, CDs, and more. Now, if this account, the ESA, is owned by the parents and the child is a dependent student, it is considered a parental asset and will have a very small effect on the student aid index. Again, when I say student aid index, I am referring to financial aid, and we'll get to it, but it's important to know how these funds or how these assets are owned and how it could affect aid in other areas. The amount you can contribute each year is restricted. If you are a high earner, you may not be eligible to participate in this sort of savings vehicle. And again, reach out to your advisor, your financial advisor. And you can also visit the IRS's website to learn more about the restrictions as it relates to Coverdale Education Savings accounts. Of course, IRS's website is irs.gov. Now, the funds must be used before the child reaches the age of 30, or you'll have to pay income taxes and a 10% penalty. The good news is that you can roll over the balance to a Coverdale plan for a different family member under the age of 30. So you can name a new beneficiary. Oh, and ESAs can be used to cover both public and private schools in primary, secondary, and higher education. So it is not just for just to pay for college.
How about abroad?
So based on my understanding with 529s, and we'll talk about that next, Coverdale has some similar guidelines. If the institutions qualify for financial aid, if they fall on the list of institutions that qualify for financial aid, then you can apply the ESA to those institutions as well, without tax penalty, obviously. Good question. And speaking of 529s, there are two varieties of 529 plans, college savings plans offered by individual states. The plan manager chooses the investments, so you can invest in another state's plan. It does not have to be a plan that is specifically for residents of California. Also, the state that the student is plans to attend college does not matter when it comes to the 529. Now, some states offer a tax deduction for contributing in its state's 529. So it's always good to look into your own state first to see if that's where you want to start your 529. I can tell you guys, unfortunately, and some of you probably already know this, that California does not offer a state tax deduction. So it makes it even more beneficial for you to look into 529s in your state, but also into other states, primarily because you won't be missing out on that tax deduction. Now, the prepaid tuition plan is a way to lock in tomorrow's tuition costs at today's prices. It is intended for in-state public education. You may be able to use it at a private college or out-of-state public school, but coverage will likely be less. So if you do plan to do a 529 and you want to do that prepaid tuition plan, it is a good idea for you to look a little bit more into it before you start to make that plan today. Okay, because I like the prepaid tuition plan concept. Not all states have it available. I know that my state, Virginia, just recently made that available. I kind of look at it as like hedging your bet, but the other bet that you have to hedge is or have a conversation with the student who you are financing this education for is you have to attend a school in the state based on how we planned to pay for your education. So that's a whole nother thing, but food for thought. It is good to just know that these plans exist and what your options are. Now, there are no income taxes on earnings or withdrawals as long as the funds are used for qualified education expenses. Remember those qualified education expenses that I mentioned earlier? And a lot of these plans, they're going to be based on how you use the funds. So you cannot take advantage of these plans and then decide, you know what, I'm just going to take my 529 plan and this trip that I've always wanted to go on, I'm just going to do that instead. You can, but you're going to pay a penalty, a tax penalty as a result.
So what if the child doesn't go to college and you put all this money in and you're sitting by the phone crying and you got all this money, this child's not going to school?
I am so glad you asked that. That is a very frequently asked question. And I would say that has been the question that has unfortunately kept so many parents away from 529s because, well, what if we don't use the money? Like, what are our options? Now, first, if a 529 plan's funds are not used for qualified education expenses, the earning portions of the withdrawals, that's going to be subject to the income tax and a 10% penalty. So that's important to note because that is probably the reason why some people are thinking, I'm not going to do that 529 because I don't want my money stuck. And if I do have to take it out, I don't want to have to pay this penalty and income taxes on it. But there has been some changes in the laws, thank goodness, that allows a change in beneficiary. So that means you have two children, that the second kid is gonna need a lot of financial assistance. First kid was able to, get the scholarships and you had to pay very little for college, but you planned for them. What can you do? Well, you can roll over those funds from that 529 and change the beneficiary. So that is your first option. You can change it to a new beneficiary. You can change it to yourself if you'd like. You can make yourself the new beneficiary and you can always go back to school or just, again, use it for those qualified education expenses. You can also roll it over to a Roth IRA. Again, these are recent changes. You can roll over to a Roth IRA up to $35,000. An account would have had to be open for at least 15 years before that conversion can take place. So you have this 529, you've been contributing to it. Kids decide, we're so smart, our college is going to be, paid for, scholarship, they play sports, they got a full ride, what have you, and now you have this big pot of money sitting in 529. What do I want to do? What can I do with it? I don't have a kid to roll it over to. I don't want to go back to school. I've been there and done that. You can roll over up to $35,000 into a Roth IRA, and it can be in the child's name. So I love this as a product option because you made plans to prepare for their future by paying for their education. And it turns out that it's a win-win because now you can roll these funds over to their retirement. So I see it as a win-win. Again, reach out, speak to your planners and advisors to get a little bit more information and, talk about the pros and cons. I would jot down, I listened to this lady say that we can roll this over into a Roth. Is that true? How much? How long? Is this a good use of my money or is this a waste of my time? And like any investment account, again, reach out to those advisors. If you don't know where you want to open, I believe you guys have wealth management at Patelco. Reach out to an advisor and, hey, it's too many options. I don't like having to figure these things out. I'll tell you my situation and you give me what you think would make sense based on my situation. In terms of if you're going to do the Coverdale, if you're going to do the prepaid tuition plan or the 529 college savings plan. Myself, I do own a 529 plan for my kiddos. My experience, if you're just wondering kind of how it works, it has the feel of a 401k plan. You can set your investment options based on the level of risk that you're willing to take, or you can set it up based on when the money will be withdrawn. I think my kids, oh gosh, I don't remember the year. They're very young, 5 and 3. And so for me, I have it based on their year of graduation. So of course, early on, the investments are a little bit more aggressive as they get closer to having to actually use the funds, which again, I can't remember the year that's on there, but then that's when the plan will start to get a little bit more conservative. Okay. And for more information about California 529 plans, you can visit scholarshare529.com. I believe that's the official California 529 site. So if you want to pop this in, Veronica, it's scholarshare529.com.
So we just have a couple questions here.
Okay.
It's fascinating. Does the 529 count for a vocational school?
Does a vocational as in K through 12?
Well, I think vocational like trucking school or nursing school or
Oh, like primarily, yes. Just make sure, yes, primarily, yes. I'm sorry, like a trade school
yes.
or, okay, yeah. I wanted to make sure we're not talking about K through 12 because there are some limitations and depending on your state, whether
Mm,
you're able to use your 529 for K through 12. But yes, absolutely. They can be. Again, qualified education. And if you go to the IRS's website, they specifically identify what qualified education expenses are.
cool.
So good
So
question.
does the 529 typically work with financial aid or is
This,
it just separate?
it's separate, and we'll get to that, but essentially you have like savings vehicles. Financial aid is not considered a savings vehicle. It is, grants and or money loaned to you. And so here's a pro and con. Some people will point out, well, if I save money in my 529, then now my student aid index is going to show
Oh,
that I can afford college. And
yeah,
my nice way of answering that is, but that was the point. That was
yeah,
the point. I mean, you don't want to, you want to qualify for as much free money as you can. Um, and when needed, you want to qualify for enough student
yeah.
loans as you can. But that's when you need it. And that's a really, really good problem to have if you
Mhm.
have these funds in your 529 and you can afford to pay for college and you don't have to rely on financial aid for loans. So yes, it does impact your financial aid award,
Yeah,
but it does not put you in a situation where you are not going to be able to like now, oh, I shouldn't have saved this money. Essentially. So I hope that answers the question, but
it did.
also in a nice way.
Last question on the 529, and then we're
Yes.
going to have people just send it to patelco.org.
Okay.
Does it, John wants to know, should you use it on the first year? Is there a benefit to using it as source of payment in later years? I
I'm
guess he's
glad
just
you
talking about budgeting, you know?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. And I just read a little bit of something about this, and I didn't dig too deep into it because I didn't want to go into it deep here, because I felt like it was too deep into the weeds. But what I read was it might make more sense to like so basically, if your kid is in a 4-year college program, it says instead of withdrawing in their freshman year, you wait to the sophomore year because of how financial aid works in that student aid index that I'm mentioning. Let's say your kid is in a 5-year program, then you would wait until their junior year to.
Mhm.
So there are some strategies that you can use. I'm not qualified, honestly, to break that down or try to give you any type of advisement. So I would take that question to an advisor, certainly, and just talk about, what's the strategy for making it work.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that question. I'm so glad that I read that article earlier. All right, let's talk about some other savings vehicles because I do want to get to financial aid because some of your questions have been based around it as well. So Roth IRAs, it is a type of retirement account. You guys are probably familiar with IRAs. Individual retirement account is what IRA stands for. Contributions are taxed, but the earnings grow tax-free. You can withdraw those contributions tax and penalty free. If you withdraw earnings before the age of 59 and a half, you do have to pay taxes, but that 10% penalty is waived if you use the funds for qualified education expenses. Now, when applying for financial aid, you don't have to list retirement accounts as an asset, but if you do make withdrawals from it, it will count as parental income. Okay. And the tax benefits aren't as good as 529s, but it is another viable option. I would just say before withdrawing money from a Roth IRA, consider your own retirement and your retirement goals, because you might be putting yourself in a position where you have to maybe work longer. And like one of my colleagues likes to say, you can borrow to pay for education, but you can't borrow to pay for retirement. There's no I'm retired and I need a loan to pay for my retirement fund. So maybe just think twice if you do plan to use your Roth IRA, if you planned to use it in your own retirement. The U.S. government series EE and I savings bond, that's another option. So these bonds increase in value monthly and can earn interest for 30 years. The education bond program protects earnest or interest earned on series EE and I savings bonds from federal income tax, but you must meet income and age guidelines. Now the bonds must be registered in your name, and you must pay for the higher education expenses in the same calendar year that you redeem the bond. So bonds, another option. I might sound like a broken record when I say this, but reach out to an advisor for more information if you are looking at bonds as an option. And the reason why I say reach out to an advisor is because, especially if it's early on, you might not be getting the highest return that you could get by putting those funds into the bonds, when you can maybe put it into an account that is going to yield a higher return. So, and if you want to open up one of those accounts, you can go to treasurydirect.gov. And this last one here, the zero coupon bonds, these bonds are bought at a deep discount and then redeemed for face value when they mature. Now, some states issue zero coupon municipal bonds called baccalaureate bonds, specifically for college expense planning. So if this is an option that you want to use, again, just another savings vehicle, jot that down in the note section of your mobile devices or on your notebook if you want to maybe discuss that with an advisor. Now, financial aid is another source that should be considered to pay for college. Financial aid is money supplied by a source other than you to help pay for education costs. So this is not one of those savings vehicles that I mentioned earlier. It may come from the federal government. It could come from the state itself. The state has funds too. The school or private entities such as foundations. Some are scholarships and grants. Others are loans that have to be repaid or work study arrangements. Now, financial aid may be available to everyone or based on a qualification like need. So need-based aid, of course, is there, but there's also academic merit. Who should apply for financial aid? Who do you think should apply for financial aid? I can tell you the answer is everyone should apply. And that's only because applying does not hurt your credit. It's not going to impact your credit score. And it's not an acceptance of aid. It's just information. Also, you don't know what or if you're going to qualify unless you actually apply. The official application is called the Free Application for Federal Student Aid, or FAFSA, which we're going to talk about on the next screen here. And like I mentioned, there is no one size fits all when it comes to federal financial aid. Even if you, the parent, you are a high earner, it's still good to apply, even if you think that you might not be eligible. So financial aid is not like, if you make $250,000 or more a year, then you're not gonna receive any aid. That's not how it works. A lot of other factors are taken into consideration, including if you have other children that you are financing or paying for their education. All those things apply, and that's why it's a good idea for you to, again, just go ahead and apply. Now, the application must be renewed each year. And applying early is best. So I'm glad we're talking about this here in August because the application opens in October. So on October 1st of each year. So this October application applies to students who will be entering college for the 26-27 school year. So we're this year 25-26. If you have a high school senior, then you would be applying for the fall 2026, winter 2027, or spring, depending on where you go to school. And then the income that they use is going to be based on the 2024 tax year. Now, if you missed the deadline, you are still encouraged to apply for the following year. Each state and each educational institution, each college, university, they have their own deadline. So it is a good idea to do a little bit of research. And a lot of this information can be found on the official website for federal financial aid, which is studentaid.gov. After the FAFSA is sent to the school, the financial aid office develops what's called an aid package for the student. Each school's offerings may be different, so because they base it on the cost of attendance. And the student will get a chance to send their profile when you apply electronically, of course, up to 20 schools. And you should expect to receive an aid package back. So FAFSA does not work as to say, okay, based on your income, you're going to receive, a couple thousand, $3,000 in grants, and then regardless of the school you go to, and up to $20,000 in loans. It doesn't work like that. There'll be an aid package that you will receive from each school. And now to grants. So grants are funds, also called awards. They do not have to be repaid. The amount awarded is usually not high, and typically a grant is not going to cover all your costs, but it can help relieve some of the burden of college costs. Now, the federal government offers grant programs that are primarily need-based. So the Pell Grant, which still exists, that's the most common. The federal government guarantees that all eligible students will be awarded their share. And then a supplemental education opportunity grant. This is not guaranteed, and students are awarded the grant based on availability of the funds at that school. Another reason why we say apply early, get that information out. Most grants are going to be based off of your financial aid profile. And if I could mention this too, a lot of scholarships, even when they are not necessarily need-based, they might still require you to do a FAFSA application. Another reason why it's important for you to just go ahead and apply. Again, you lose nothing by applying. Now let's talk federal student loans. This is another great way to finance higher education. They are, I say they're easy to obtain. So many changes are happening in our country right now, so maybe I shouldn't say that they're easy to obtain. But one thing is certain, that the interest rates are low comparatively, and the repayment periods are long and somewhat lenient. Again, things have changed a lot lately. And just a quick reminder of the order for paying for college. You want to make sure that you start by applying free money. So free money, like those grants I just mentioned, scholarships, apply those funds first. Then we go to the savings. That's your money, like the Coverdale ESA, the 529s. If you do still have a remaining balance, that's when you look to borrowed money, like federal student loans. Okay. Thumbs up if you understand the differences between subsidized and unsubsidized federal loans. You have an understanding. I don't see anything, but that's okay. I'm going to tell you anyway. So subsidized. First of all, federal student loans come in both subsidized and unsubsidized forms. The Subsidized loan, the government pays the interest until the student leaves school. You don't pay interest while in school. Thank you. I see some of the answers coming through too. Unsubsidized loans, you pay interest while in school. And in some instances, you might not pay the interest while you're in school, but interest is accruing while you are a student in school. It can either be paid monthly, and that will help the student save on compounding interest, so that it's not added to the principal when it is time to talk about repayment. Now, direct loans are the most common. Previously, these were referred to as Stafford loans. Now, more commonly, we call them direct loans. And again, they may be subsidized if economic need is proven, or they could be unsubsidized. Plus loans are for the parents of a student who wish to help pay for their child's education, also known as a Parent Plus loan. And then students who are applying or in graduate school students, they also can qualify or apply for a plus student loan, also known as a Grad Plus loan. With both loan products, you cannot have an adverse credit history, and the child or student must be a dependent undergraduate student enrolled at least half time in order for the parent to take a plus loan. And just a quick reminder, none of those loans exist. You can't say yay or nay to it without filling out a FAFSA application. And a quick thing about work study, it is a federal program, and it is an option made available to those proving economic need. They provide jobs with pay of at least minimum wage. Students are usually offered a job related to their field of study. I know for me, I had work study when I was in school eons ago, and I did work close to the study of my major. So it's kind of good because it gives the student some good experience for maybe a future career. The downside of work study programs is that it could cut into a student's study time. I can tell you that wasn't my experience. My supervisors, if you will, work study supervisors, they allowed me to study on the job if I had like exams or something. So, but it really depends on where you get the work study job. A few other resources, or sources I should say, to consider, and I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. The military, so almost all branches of the military have a number of college education financing options. AmeriCorps is a program that allows people to earn education awards in exchange for their service. Scholarships, they are not necessarily included in the FAFSA, but can be pursued independently through colleges, nonprofit organizations, private foundations, and government agencies. I do have a source from the Department of Labor that will help you and your student look for scholarships. Private student loans are offered by lenders with no involvement from the government. So a lot of what I discussed about subsidized and unsubsidized loans, they don't apply. Repayment, none of that applies to private student loans. Private student loans are going to be based on the terms of the institution where that loan is taken. And we like to say that use private student loan borrowing as a final resort, just because the federal options are going to be better. You can also do a cash out refinance or a home equity loan, a HELOC, if you are a homeowner. Again, just other sources of funding to help pay for education. There are tax breaks offered federally to those paying for higher education. So just be sure to reach out to your tax professional, discuss how to best utilize these programs. You have the American Opportunity Credit. That's a credit for qualified education expenses paid for eligible students for the first 4 years of higher education. Again, IRS is going to be the site that you use. And I try to never give you specific numbers because, as you guys know, inflation and numbers change so often. So how much can you receive as a credit for the American Opportunity Credit? I would say visit the IRS's website so that you can have that specific dollar amount, or you can reach out to your tax advisor. The lifetime learning credit is for qualified tuition and related expenses paid for by eligible students enrolled in an eligible educational institution. It can help pay for undergraduate, graduate, or professional degree courses. And you might be eligible for a tax deduction for any interest paid on student loan payments. As far as I know, they're still sending out the education interest reports on Form 1098E. I've spent many years of receiving those forms so that I can deduct some of my interest that I paid throughout the year. But something you should also know, there are some requirements and you might not meet them all, especially if you are a high earner. So again, reach out to your tax pro, financial advisor, talk about the student loan interest deduction. You can mention that Form 1098E and whether it applies and how you can maybe reduce some of your tax liability as a result. And in summary, I know we covered a lot today and we're running out of time, but this subject can be somewhat stressful, especially the closer you get to it becoming your reality. But first and foremost, I would say don't panic. We covered a lot, but there's one thing that I can tell you, I would say is just plan as early as possible. Start today. Even if you have $25, $100 per month to save at the end of the month, over time, that can make a major impact to the contribution to your students' education. And finally, there are so many programs out there that you can take advantage of to help with assistance. Like I mentioned, the Department of Labor has a free scholarship search tool that you can use. And I will, as Veronica, I'm going to pass it over to her, and I'm going to add that information into the chat while she is presenting to you.
Perfect. You did an extraordinarily great job again, LauRae. You know, we're always so pleased and delighted when you come because our members love you and you have so much great information. And I want to let you know, members, that we have more resources for you. We have small talks for big changes. And that's when we break down bite-sized pieces of financial health information to increase your financial capacity and make better choices with your money. We also have Spring Forth, which has resources in the community for whatever challenge you're having. We are in this community together to support each other. There's no shame to our game. I always say that you support people with love and not judgment. So, and we also have Bonsai, which is great. It's attached to our website. You can go and take gamified learnings, and they'll also even make a budget and send it to you. So you can use all of our resources. In the next slide, LauRae. Again, most of our employees are certified financial specialists. And again, for your financial health, we're going to help you save money, reduce debt, create a budget, rebuild credit, and also support you in the things that you're not really sure about. So I always tell people, you don't have to be poor if you're information rich. The more you learn, the more you earn. And we also have Balance, which we got our Balance Pro here. Such great information. Timely, short, easy to understand, available, and accessible. What else could you ask for? It's like Christmas every day with Balance, right, LauRae?
Every day.
Every day. So again, we wanted to thank you so much for attending this webinar. Remember, next week, we're going to have our amazing Andrew to let you know about our benefits, because if you don't know about our benefits, they can benefit you. We also have our virtual branch. If you can't get to the credit union, but you can get to your computer, that's all you have to do is pop it open and you will have your personal banker supporting you. So if you have any questions, you can go to You can contact us at webinars@patelco.org, because I know there were some questions that we didn't have an opportunity to answer. But if the person who wanted to know about the Roth and the 35K and the and separate multiple IRAs, if you could just send me a quick email, I can get that information to you. I want to thank Andrew, who has been nannying in the background, answering questions and giving us all the best service. Thank you so much for coming to our webinar tonight. We're pleased and delighted to host you, and we look forward to seeing you on September the 17th at our benefits webinar. Thank you, LauRae. You come in like a superstar, you leave like a superstar. We so appreciate you. You guys have a fabulous night. Thank you. Bye.
Bye now.
Hey, thanks for watching. Want more financial advice? Make sure you watch the video here. And want to hit that subscribe button for more financial deliciousness? Hit that button here.